For over 600 years, the Ottoman Empire was one of the most powerful and enduring empires in world history. Stretching across 3 continents at its height, the empire controlled much of southeastern Europe, Western Asia and North Africa. The empire stood as a symbol of cultural, military and economic power. But by the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire was crumbling. The story of its fall is one of internal decline, external pressures and the shifting tides of global politics. From the capture of Constantinople in 1453 to the height of its territorial expansion under Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottomans controlled vast regions that connected the Mediterranean, the Middle East and Europe. The empire was a melting pot of cultures, religions and ethnicities, ruled by a powerful sultan who governed from Topkapi Palace in Constantinople, the jewel of the empire. But by the 19th century, the once great empire had begun to falter. The Ottomans, like many other empires, were facing internal strife. Corruption, inefficiency and stagnation had spread through the empire's bureaucracy. The once feared Janissary Corps, which had been the backbone of Ottoman military power, had become complacent and resistant to change. Meanwhile, the rise of nationalism among the empire's diverse populations in the Balkans and Middle East created growing unrest. Serbs, Greeks, Bulgarians and Arabs began pushing for independence, inspired by the nationalist movement sweeping across Europe. This period of instability came to be known as the Eastern Question in European diplomacy. What would happen to the vast Ottoman territories if the empire collapsed? In response to these challenges, Ottoman leaders recognized the need for reform. Beginning in the 1830s, the empire embarked on a series of modernizing reforms known as the Tanzimat, or reorganization. These reforms were aimed at centralizing power, modernizing the military and improving the legal system to create a more unified and efficient state. Under the Tanzimat reforms, new railroads were built, schools were established, and the legal system was overhauled to create a more secular and equal society. European-style institutions were introduced in an attempt to bring the Ottoman Empire in line with the rising powers of Western Europe. However, these reforms were often met with resistance from conservative elements within the empire, including the ulama, or religious scholars, and provincial rulers who saw them as a threat to their authority. Despite these efforts, the Ottoman Empire continued to lose ground. Throughout the 19th century, the empire faced defeat after defeat at the hands of rising European powers. The loss of Egypt to Britain in 1882 and the independence of Greece in 1830 were major blows to Ottoman prestige. By the early 20th century, the situation had worsened. In the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, the Ottomans lost nearly all their remaining European territories, including Albania, Macedonia and parts of Thrace. The shrinking empire was now referred to as the sick man of Europe by its European rivals, a reflection of its weakened state and the growing instability within. When World War I erupted in 1914, the Ottomans made a fateful decision. They joined the war on the side of the Central Powers, allying themselves with Germany and Austria-Hungary. The Ottoman leadership believed that a victory in the war could help them regain lost territory and restore the empire's former glory. However, the war proved disastrous for the Ottomans. Ottoman forces suffered heavy losses on multiple fronts, including the infamous Gallipoli campaign in 1915, where British and Anzac forces attempted to seize control of the Dardanelles, only to face fierce resistance from Ottoman forces under the command of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. In the Middle East, Ottoman forces were gradually pushed back by British and Arab forces, including the famous campaign led by T.E. Lawrence, known as Lawrence of Arabia, who helped inspire Arab uprisings against Ottoman rule. The loss of Baghdad and Jerusalem marked the beginning of the end for the Ottoman Empire's control over the region. By the end of World War I in 1918, the Ottoman Empire was in ruins. The Treaty of Sèvres, signed in 1920, was a humiliating agreement that dismembered the Ottoman territories. The treaty carved up much of the empire's lands, with large portions going to Britain and France under League of Nations mandates. Anatolia itself, the heartland of the empire, was partitioned among the victorious Allied powers. In the Middle East, Britain took control of Iraq and Palestine, while France claimed Syria and Lebanon. In the western regions, Greece and Italy seized Ottoman territories. Meanwhile, the Armenians and Kurds were promised independent states, though these promises would later be abandoned. But the story of the Ottoman Empire didn't end with the Treaty of Sèvres. In the wake of the empire's defeat, a young military leader named Mustafa Kemal, later known as Atatürk, led a successful nationalist movement to reclaim Anatolia and establish a new Turkish state. From 1919 to 1922, Atatürk's forces fought against the occupying Allied powers and local separatist movements in what became known as the Turkish War of Independence. His victory over the Greeks at the Battle of Sakarya in 1921 marked a turning point in the war. The war culminated in the signing of the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923, which replaced the Treaty of Sèvres and recognized the sovereignty of the newly formed Republic of Turkey. This treaty established the borders of modern Turkey and marked the official end of the Ottoman Empire. The fall of the Ottoman Empire marked the end of an era. Once one of the greatest empires in history, it had spanned over 6 centuries and left an indelible mark on the regions it ruled. The empire's legacy can still be seen today in the culture, architecture, and political landscapes of the Middle East, the Balkans, and North Africa. But the collapse of the empire also left behind deep political and ethnic divisions. The partitioning of Ottoman lands by European powers planted the seeds for many of the conflicts that would follow in the 20th century, particularly in the Middle East, where national borders drawn by foreign powers often disregarded the realities on the ground. In Turkey, Atatürk's reforms transformed the new republic into a secular, modern state, breaking with the Ottoman past. His vision of a secular nationalism became a model for many post-Ottoman states, but it also meant the final dissolution of the Ottoman imperial system. The fall of the Ottoman Empire was a momentous event that reshaped the political map of the Middle East and Europe. It was the last of the great empires that had dominated the medieval and early modern world to collapse, marking the end of an era of imperial rule. The rise of nation-states, the spread of nationalism, and the new global order after World War I would create the world we know today.